Welcome to the Retro Junkion.
Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing something a little different. We're going to be going over some software. This is going to be a tutorial about how to set up the new Wi-Fi device driver for the PiStorm that allows you to use the PiStorm's built-in Wi-Fi to get your Amiga online. The guy that wrote the EMU68 emulator software for the PiStorm, I think it's Mikhail Schulz, it could be Michael, sorry for butchering that, I don't know how he pronounces it, but anyway, it's a great project, and he released this driver recently to allow you to use the built-in Wi-Fi from the PiStorm or the Raspberry Pi to get your Amiga online, which is fantastic. It'll allow you to get your A500 online without a clip box, or allow you to free up your PCMCIA devices for your 1200s and 600s. And this tutorial should work for any Amiga. We're gonna have, so what I've got here is just a basic install of Amiga OS 3.2. The only things I've done to it besides install the operating system is I installed Directory Opus, and it just makes it a little bit easier. You can do it without it, but the copying and archive extraction that we're going to have to do, it's a little easier with Directory Opus. And then I also set up no-click, so my disk drive's not sitting here clicking. And then I also set up and configured LHA, which you will need to extract the archives. The software is an archive format, and you need LHA to extract this stuff. And then the last thing, and most notable, I set this up on WinUAE, by the way. To this point, we're on a real 1200 now, but this is, so I made a partition on the main drive. I made a separate partition called storage, and this is where I put all the files that we're going to need. The easiest way to get this stuff over for, like, say 500, something that doesn't have PCMCIA, if you don't have the the CF card reader or whatever, is just set it up on WinUAE and then set up a transfer file or transfer directory as a hard drive, as a drive on there, and then you can copy the stuff over directly from a PC into your hard drive, and then just copy it all to an actual CF card or whatever you're going to be using, and then you'll have it on there. But alright, so let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to open up Directory Opus. I'm going to go into where I have this stuff at, which for me is storage, and then we're going to extract into RAM. We're going to extract MUI. This is a Magic User Interface, and a couple of the softwares that we're going to be using rely on this to function, and we're going to do it first and only extract it just because we're going to reset afterwards so it can load in to the user startup or the startup sequence. But just click MUI 3.8 user LHA, and then arc extract, and then that's going to go into RAM so we can get rid of the install files when we're done. Alright, let's get out of here. We can go ahead and close Dopus, and then we'll go up to RAM, and then MUI, and install MUI. And you can go intermediate is fine. Proceed with install for real, and then this, just proceed. And it's going to ask you where you want to put it. For me, I'm going to put mine in my main Workbench drive. So Workbench, and then proceed. And for MUI, it's going to create a drawer for you called MUI. Wherever you tell it to put the software, it's going to create that drawer. Proceed. And just wait for that to copy. These are image sets. They default to checked. I just click proceed here. And then next, it's going to ask about documentation. Alright, these are the Amiga guide documents, English in my case, proceed. And then these, it's asking about installing example programs. I'm going to say no, I don't need that. And then that's it. Click proceed here. And then we're going to do control Amiga and reboot the system. Once that's back up, we can keep going here. Okay, so now we're back up. We're gonna go back into directory opus, or you can do this by the command line interface, however you're doing it. But for me, it's gonna be storage, going back into where I have the software, and then RAM on this side. So next we're going to extract Amiga SSL, which is software that handles certificates, the secure socket layer certificates for web browsing and stuff. So we click on Amiga SSL, arc extract, so it's extracting that into RAM, and we're going to reboot after we install Amiga SSL as well. So we don't need to copy anything else yet because it'll get lost when we reboot. Alright, so we can quit out of here, go into RAM disk, Amiga SSL, click on install Amiga SSL, install for real, proceed, OS, Amiga OS 3.x, proceed, and then it wants you to, again, choose where you're going to install it at. It defaults to sys. It's going to create a directory named Amiga SSL in this drawer, and in this case I'm just going to leave it where it defaulted at sys, proceed, 68.020, 030, 040, or 080. That defaults is checked, but it should be checked for the PiStorm. Proceed. And let it copy its files over. Okay. It's going to ask, would you like to add Amiga SSL to your path? This will make it possible to execute OpenSSL tool without specifying full path. Yes. And then it needs to create an assign in your startup sequence or user startup sequence. So proceed, and then finished. So proceed and proceed. Alright, so now we're going to reboot again, control Amiga to allow Amiga SSL to get loaded into the startup sequence, or the user startup sequence. Alright, and then when this comes back up, then we can continue on to extract the rest of the software, or most of the rest of the software. Okay, so we're back up. We're going to go into directory opus again. Back to the storage drive, and then again RAM over on this side. So we're going to copy over Prism. This is Prism 2v2 is actually a PCMCIA driver, but what we're really using this for is to, one, it's going to create a couple of folders for us. I'll show you that in a bit, and then more importantly, it's when we run this, it's going to create, it's going to have you type in your Wi-Fi information and create it's a wireless.prefs file that's stored in invark sys. But basically it's going to create your encrypted passphrase for your router in case you don't want to have your modem's password just sitting unencrypted on your Amiga. So Prism 2v2, we're just going to arc extract that to RAM. And then with Miami, there's two of them. There's Miami 10 main and Miami MUI. I'll put a link to all these files if YouTube lets me. I'll put a link to all these files in the description below the video. But first, Miami DX10C main, we're going to arc extract that to RAM. And then we're going to arc extract the Miami DX10C MUI. But the way this is set up is when you arc extract DX10 main, it creates this Miami DX10 install drawer. And when you extract MUI.LHA, it's going to get extracted into that install drawer. So we only have to run the one installer. So arc extract that, 2 files, and then let's see. We're going to extract iBrows, which is this is just like the trial version of iBrows. You can buy it, obviously, but I'm only ever online on my Amiga for a few minutes to download something or whatever, you know. So I haven't got the full version yet. I probably will end up doing that. But anyway, iBrows 2.5.8, arc extract that to RAM. Okay, so we're gonna exit out of Dopus, and I'm gonna iconify this because we're gonna come back in here in a few minutes to copy one more thing over, or 2 more things over actually. All right, so we're gonna go to RAM here, and just so you know, if you don't have this set up, if you right-click, go up to Window, and then Show All. This will allow you to see some files that you wouldn't be able to see otherwise. In this case, we don't need it, but there are some files later on that will be hidden that we need to see. Okay, so we're going to install first Miami DX10. So open that up. Let me go over here. Install Miami DX. Install for real. Proceed. Another deal where it's going to ask you where you want it to go, and it's not going to create a directory in this case. I'm just going to have it install in Workbench. Proceed. I'm going to tell it not to install new icons. You can install icons if you want to. Proceed. Make sure MUI is checked. It's checked by default, but just make sure this is checked, and then proceed. And then make sure that this one's got the little blue dot check in it. So proceed. And then do you want to install SANA and MNI device? No, we don't. I don't need to install that. That's a device driver for a different network device. So no. And then wait for it to install everything. Okay, so it's necessary to create an assign, so we're tell it yes, and then it's going to modify user startup to add the assign in and proceed. Okay, and now it's finished and finished. Okay, so we can close out of Miami DX10. Next, we're going to install Prism 2v2. So open up Prism 2v2 and then install. And when we install this, it's going to create the 2 folders that we're going to copy stuff into later. But more importantly, when the install starts, it's going to ask us for our Wi-Fi SSID and password. Of course, I'm going to blur mine out in the video, but you just type in yours. Make sure that you don't have any typos. Just click proceed, and then install for real. Proceed. Okay, so what's your network name, SSID? Just make sure you don't have typos. This is going to create a file, and if you have any typos, you'll have to go into that file and modify it, or erase that file and do it again. We're not going to be getting into that, but just double check that you got everything right. Proceed, and then your password. Okay, type in your password, click proceed. Again, double check that you got everything right. Proceed, and then it will generate the key, and then it copied Prism 2, but we don't need that, we won't use it. So click proceed. All right, click out of that, and then we're going to install iBrows. So click on iBrows in your RAM disk drawer, install iBrows. Intermediate user is fine. Proceed with install. Install for real. Proceed. Click proceed here. And then it's going to ask you where you want to install iBrows. We're going to install, or in my case, I'm going to install this in Workbench. And it will create a new drawer called iBrows in whatever drawer you select to install it into. So click proceed. For me, the language is going to be English. I don't need to check it though, it's built in, but click your language, proceed. These are second languages, I don't need any. Proceed. In this case, for the PiStorm, I'm going to do 68040 FPU, and then proceed, and wait for it to finish installing. Okay, and it's going to ask you what image set do you want. I'm just going to go with 5-bit 32 colors, that's fine. Proceed. And then it's going to ask you which transfer animation do you want. I'm going to do 5-bit 32 colors again. Proceed. And then it needs some dependencies, and it's going to install them. If you don't already have the latest version, just make sure these two are checked. Then click with proceed with copy, and then it's going to ask you about some more dependencies. Just click proceed. And then just click proceed with copy for all of the ones it pops up and asks you about. There will be a few of them. And I'm going to pause for just a second so you guys can see some of what it's asking here. This is the Cache Explorer, so you can have like it can type in stuff for you in the Explorer bar. Click proceed, and then text history, so we'll click proceed with copy again, and just do the same thing. Click proceed with copy and let it install its dependencies, and then you get this readme that pops up. Exit out of that, and then installation is complete. Proceed, and then we can close iBrows, and then I'm going to go back into directory Opus, and we're going to copy the last 2 bits of software that we need over. So we're in storage on the left here, and then on the right we're going to go to DH0 and then devs, and then this firmware and networks are the folders or the drawers that the Prism 2v2 software set up for us. But on the storage side, we're going to go into EMU68 Wi-Fi, go into devs, and then firmware, open that up, and then we're going to go here and open up firmware. So DH0 devs firmware, and we're going to copy all the files in firmware in our storage. All of these files we're going to copy into the drawer firmware on DH0 devs. So all, and then copy. Alright, so we're done there. And then we're going to go back over here. Then we're going to go to networks. And then over here we're going to go back, DH0 devs, we're going to go to networks. And then we're going to copy wifipi.device to DH0 devs networks. So copy. Alright. Then we can close out of Opus. We're done copying stuff. Quit. Okay. And then we're going to reboot the system. So Control, Amiga, and wait for it to reboot again. All right, let it pop back up. Okay, so we're back up. Now we're going to configure Miami DX. We're going to go into Workbench, where we installed Miami DX, and in my case I installed it over here. This is one of those situations where if you don't see Miami DX in the drawer that you installed it in, right click in that drawer, go up to Window, and then show all files. So here's Miami DX. I'm gonna left click on Miami DX to highlight it, and then I'm gonna right click on it, and I'm going to go up to Icons, Leave Out, and that's gonna put it on my main workbench. Alright, so I'm gonna run Miami DX, execute that, and here's Miami DX. We're gonna configure this. So first on the left here, we want to go to Hardware, and then we want to go New, Ethernet, and then you can give it whatever name you want. Mine, I'm going to call it wifipi. And remember to click Enter after you type this stuff in, so sometimes if you leave it without clicking Enter there, it won't actually take what you typed in. But the type should be Santa 2 driver by default. If it's not, just click on this and go to Santa 2 driver. And then we want to go driver, click on this little paper with the corner folded up, and we want to click wifipi.device, and then OK. And then click Santa 2 parameters, and go down to query device. And if everything's set up correctly so far, when you click query device, it should fill in this hardware address, and that will be your MAC address. And then click OK, and then OK. And now we want to go down to interfaces, and New. We want to go Ethernet, and then make sure Internet's clicked over here. It should default to that, but if not, just click Internet, and then OK. Click Wi-Fi Pi, or whatever you named yours is what it's going to show up as there. Click OK. And then we're going to set this up for DHCP. If you want to set it up for static routing, you can, but we're not going to cover that here. We're going to go over the configuration with DHCP setup. So click IP type right here, change to DHCP, net mask type, DHCP, gateway type, DHCP. The rest of this can stay the same. This is the name you had already given it, the alias Wi-Fi Pi. The hardware, that would be your wifipi.device, but this will already be filled in if you do the stuff before this. Alright, next we want to go to TCP IP settings. We want to make sure use ICMP is checked. And then we want get dynamic DNS servers, change that to add. And then DHCP, click enable. And you don't have to do this part, but I'm going to check to send hostname in request, and I'm going to call it Amiga 1200 in my case. And then click OK, and then click OK again to get out of there. And then what we want to do is right click on this. We're in the main Miami DX window. Right click on the Miami DX window, go up to settings, save as default. And when you do that, we're gonna close out of Miami DX, and when you save it like that, that means when you open it up, it'll already have your interfaces filled in. You don't have to do that every time. But Control Amiga, we're gonna reboot, and then wait for it to come back on again. Okay, so now we're back up. What we want to do next is we're going to execute a command to start the Wi-Fi Pi device driver. Now you can automate this, you can have it do it automatically. We're going to go, let me show you that. Right click on your workbench, go up to workbench, execute command, or you can run this from the CLI. You could add this to do this automatically to your user startup sequence or network startup or startup sequence, but I don't like that. This is what's going to actually connect to the router, and I don't use the Wi-Fi on my Amiga much, so I don't want it to be connected unless I want it to be. So I'm not automating mine, I just do it manually. But all you have to do is go up to execute command, and then we're going to type in wireless manager, and that's all one word, and then space wifipi.device, and then execute that, and it's going to pop up a CLI window, and it's going to show you the status of trying to connect to the router. Now if it's successful, it should pop up like this and say associated with, and show you the MAC address, and then it should say the WAP key negotiation was complete up here, and then control event connected. So that means that it's successfully connected to your Wi-Fi router. So you can close this. Then we're going to open Miami DX, and we saved our interfaces. So go to interfaces, click on your Ethernet 0, whatever you named it. Mine is Wi-Fi Pi. And then we click online, and if everything's set up, this will switch status to online, and then Wi-Fi Pi 10, that's the hardware. We have to leave this Miami DX open, unfortunately, but in this case I'm just going to shrink it down as small as it will go. And then we need to get iBrows so we can just confirm that we have an internet connection. So go into, in my case I did Workbench, and then I installed it in iBrows in Workbench. I'm going to do the same thing as I did with Miami DX here. I'm going to left click on iBrows, then I'm going to right click, go to icon, leave out, and that will put it on my Workbench. And then we'll go to iBrows right here, open this up, and it's going to tell you about being the trial version. But I'm going to make this bigger so we can see a little bit more. But we can just check to make sure that we have internet connectivity. We'll go to google.com to begin with, and it's going to look it up through DNS, and give it a second, and it will hopefully load up google.com. And there we go. Alright, so there's your google.com, that's working. Amiga.org is a quick link we have here. Click on that, make sure it loads up. There's Amiga.org. And then the main one I like to check is Aminet, Aminet.net, just because this is one of the sites that has all of this Amiga software on it. Most of the software to set this up for this tutorial would have come from here. And then if you wanted to download something on here, you just click on it and it'll pop up and ask you where do you want to download it to. That's a little bit out of the scope of what we're doing here, but yeah, there you go. It's working correctly and your Amiga is online and you don't need any extra hardware. Let me quit out of this. And then the last thing is, when you're done, just go over here and then go to your Miami DX and just click offline. That shuts the TCP/IP connection stuff down. And then we can close Miami DX. That's about it, guys. As always, thanks for watching. Anybody that has liked, and especially the people that have subscribed, I really appreciate it. It really helps the channel. I'm thinking about making another one of these tutorials, but for the Caffeine OS install on my Amiga 500. If you guys would like to see that, just let me know in the comments. And then also, if you have any comments or suggestions or little tidbits of knowledge that you'd like to share, anything really, just put it down in the comments. I'll read it and I'll reply if I can. Other than that, again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.